We spend days flicking through infinite feeds, yet the people running the world grew up locking signals by turning a heavy metallic dial. On the surface, this plays out as a harmless cultural quirk. You have 20-somethings baffled when an older relative calls the TV a boob tube, while managers scratch their heads trying to decode what a moot is. These linguistic rifts are symptoms of a wider gap in how we define the basic rules of success. When younger generations look at figures preaching the same bootstrap logic from the 80s, they see a playbook that fails to account for a housing market that tripled while wages stayed flat. Look at it from the other side of the desk, and senior managers view their younger employees as impatient and fragile. They see a workforce obsessed with moving fast, breaking things, and demanding instant fulfillment from a Tuesday morning status meeting. We are witnessing a collision between two psychological operating systems built on different priorities. To understand the tier holding the power, you have to go back to 1946. They weren't born into effortless prosperity. They were raised by survivors of global collapse, staring down the memories of rationing and breadlines. That environment created a specific parental mandate. That generation was tasked with stabilizing society. They weren't told to chase their passions. They were instructed to build a foundation so solid that the world could never collapse again. They had to carve that foundation out of solid stone using strictly analog tools. Think about the physical weight of typing on a machine like this. There is no backspace. A mistake means painting over the paper or starting entirely from scratch. Every action required careful, sequential deliberation. That caution carried directly into their careers. In the 1970s, a corporation offered a legally binding defined pension. You gave them 30 years of your physical prime, and they guaranteed your retirement. Working at the same desk for 35 years provided a rational, mutually binding economic survival mechanism. Endurance served as the ultimate virtue. Then you have millennials and Gen Z, who construct their lives not from stone, but with digital Legos. They operate in a fluid environment where mistakes are patched in seconds with a software update. When the guaranteed pensions evaporated and at-will employment took over, loyalty stopped paying the bills. Rapid iteration and jumping to a new company every 3 years became the only mathematical way to keep your head above water. Problem-solving shifted from mechanical understanding to abstract retrieval. Today, you retrieve a file by typing a keyword into a search bar. You don't need to know how the servers connect or how the hardware functions to get the result. Drop those two mindsets into the same morning status meeting, and the tension is immediate. A younger employee measures competence by how fast an idea can be executed and tested. An older manager measures competence by how thoroughly the structural risks are assessed before anyone moves an inch. To someone raised on software, that caution looks like glacial, suffocating bureaucracy. But to the person who spent 30 years laying the concrete, moving that fast looks like the destruction of the building. Which brings us to the irony of the modern workplace. The people whose brains were hardwired by manual typewriters are currently managing artificial intelligence rollouts and global cloud architecture. They occupy the corner offices. They draft the legislation. They assess the risk in the financial markets. They didn't simply survive the transition to the internet. They maintained their grip on the highest levels of institutional power. What feels like stubbornness is actually an organizational defense mechanism. Fast-paced ideas keep a company relevant, but you need a counterweight to pressure test those ideas so they don't break the load-bearing walls. Banging your head against that cautious methodology is a waste of your energy. You are operating inside a corporate and economic framework that they literally coded from scratch. Forward progress requires both forces. Youth provides the momentum needed to adapt, while the veteran tier holds the structural integrity to keep the whole thing from imploding. If you're sitting at your desk frustrated because senior leadership just stonewalled your pitch for a new workflow, you need to rethink the delivery. Stop talking about how your idea is going to disrupt the industry. To an analog brain, disruption is a physical threat. It implies tearing down the safety they spent their entire lives building. Change your vocabulary. Frame your innovative proposal as a tool that will ensure long-term stability. Show them exactly how your update protects and reinforces the foundation they already laid. The most effective way to navigate these corridors is to translate digital native speed into the analog native language of endurance and reliability. This protocol turns a source of friction into a partnership. It allows you to inherit a masterclass in resilience, while ensuring your own innovations have a foundation to stand on.